Coach, great weekend. Swept both games. How important is that going into GLIAC tournament time now, getting that extra rest? Something that you have alluded you have been able to do this year is win 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah. Let's be real about this. Neither team we beat this weekend, their seasons are not happening anymore. Their seasons ended, so they were at the bottom of the conference. Talented, they had some athletes that can do it. But we went out there and we did our job, and that's really important. And if you count the last three sets against Davenport, and then this last weekend we won 9 sets in a row, and only one of those sets did our opponent reach 20. So it means we're playing well, right? It doesn't matter who is on the other side of the net. To hold the team under 20 is impressive, and we were able to do that. I'm just really proud of our focus. Lake State in particular is just a difficult gym to play in. Just the setup of it is just a little older. The lighting's a little different. Anytime anyone stands up on those metal bleachers, you just hear the sound of creaking, ringing around the gym. So I was really proud of how we played. And there's nothing better than momentum going into the tournament, and we're playing a Parkside team who had a tough weekend. So momentum is on our side, but you still got to play the match.
Last time you played Parkside, you went 5 sets.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that was being tired after going a 5 set with Michigan Tech earlier in the week, and then obviously 3 sets as well?
I guess I don't know. I think part of it is Parkside's not a bad team. They lost their best player, arguably their best player. I would say Libero's probably their best player, but their best outside hitter when we played them earlier in the season. I think they haven't really ever recovered from that, but they've showed glimpses of playing well. And they changed up their offensive strategy against us when we played them at home. We went 5. That it really helped them. And now, so we've been spending the last couple days acknowledging the things that Parkside did because it worked. So they're going to probably do it again. And so we're just trying to make sure our defense is set up in a way that the things that they're trying to do, it's gimmicky. It's a lot of tipping, a lot of slow stuff. But if it's working, they're going to do it. And so we have to make sure we're prepared for that and try to slow them down and be physical at the net and just take care of the ball on our side for sure.
I don't know the last time you had a midweek match, probably Tech, but what's the approach for these 2 days, having a short period of time to get ready?
Yeah, the big thing is the time of year it is, right? Like we're in the playoffs, so it's really about recovery, rest. Like we practiced yesterday for like an hour, maybe a little under an hour, just to get the touches because volleyball is such like a skill sport. Like touching, seeing your arms contact the ball, your hand make contact is important just to kind of maintain. And then just mentally make sure we're doing all the recovery stuff, sleeping, eating properly, drinking enough water and things like that. And then today we'll scrimmage a little bit just to kind of simulate what we think Parkside's going to do against us and try to prepare for that mentally, get our starting side reps together because it's been kind of a carousel of athletes, but we're going to start, probably the way we started against Saginaw Valley because, Maddie York on the right side, the freshman, did a really nice job, and Lauren Cardwell, it's a defensive specialist, did a good job. So it's about giving them those opportunities, but ultimately making sure that we're recovered from the weekend. Playing only 6 sets helps with that. But ultimately we just have to be ready to go and competitive and hoping that there's a good crowd kind of in our corner as well.
How hard is it to control tempo in a volleyball match?
Honestly, not that hard. If you have the ball, and that's what happens. If there's certain teams in our league that like to play really fast. So the minute they win the point, they run back to serving line, they grab the ball. Officials give you a little bit of leeway. So if like you're on the other team's on a run and you want to bring it in the middle for a little bit longer, they give you that opportunity. If you do it continuously, they'll just start to signal for serve and move the match along. But they give you that so we can kind of control the tempo. We've always been a slower team. Like we bring in the middle, we take our time, we get back into position and play. And so teams that want to go fast are capable of, but you got to win points in order to go fast. Because if we have the ball, we're going to take our time. We're going to focus on what we have to do next. But like Wayne State's a good example. Like their whole mantra is like go, 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 go. So if you ever watch their matches, when they win a point, the person that's going back to serve will not even like talk to their team. They'll just be focused on running to the end line. Michigan Tech does that sometimes too. But ultimately we're a slower team, and so we like having control. And when you're winning points, you can kind of bring the game to a halt, right? Like you can even go and look at the 5th set when we played at Tech this year. We won. Like I challenged a play that I knew we'd probably lose because I wanted to slow the game down just as much as you can. So we're a slower team. I like that about us. We're very deliberate in everything we do. But Parkside, trying to mix it up, might try to play fast. But we'll see, because when we have momentum in our home gym, the crowd's going to be in our corner again, and so that they're going to want to try to slow it down, I would think. But I'm not them. Yeah.
You have a lot of vets on your team. Do you feel like that is helping you now going into postseason mode, and is that showing up in practice and in these past couple games?
For sure. I think the captains and the seniors in general are starting to understand that their careers are coming to an end. And so I think there's a little bit of urgency. So when we were down 2-0 to Davenport on the road, our captains, our seniors, like, not reaming out the team, but basically saying, like, we got to pick it up. Like, we have to play better. Like, and historically they have not been vocal about that kind of stuff. So in that moment, when I walked into the locker room between sets 2 and 3, I was like, wow, like, this is different. So if controlled, it can be a really positive thing. You don't want to panic, like, uh-oh, it's almost over. Like, come on. So you don't want to have that panic. But I think having a little bit of, like, urgency, I think, is great. I think they've had that. And I think having the all-time kills leader at Northern Michigan history helps. I think having Megan Meyer, who's been a consistent dominant force on the offensive defensive end, helps. I think Kaylee Barledge being one of the best servers in the league and one of the most dynamic defenders and now part of our offense helps. But we need people like Allie Barlow, who's a sophomore. We need people like Lisa Haugen, who's a sophomore. We need people like Madison York, who's a freshman, to do their job too. And so the hope is that those seniors kind of help pull them along and elevate their play. But we're in a position where if we win, we move on. If we don't, we're done. And so if people don't have urgency with that concept in their brain, I don't know what's going to motivate them to be ready to go. But also having that understanding that Parkside's definitely in a win or be done situation as well. And, while they're dinged up and whatever, I think they're going to be ready to go.
All right, let's talk about the 6 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're trailing most of that game,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get the rebound. We always talk about the unselfish play of your basketball team, but Julian rolling out and getting that wide open look. What's your thought process in that last 6 seconds? And did you have any timeouts?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a really cool made-up story, but the truth is far funnier. So I was planning on calling timeout because I assumed he would make one of the 2 free throws. And if he made one of the 2 free throws, my thought was, let's shoot a 3 and try to win it. I've always been shoot a 3, but give yourself an option for a layup in those situations. So he had 2, so I was trying to get the guys to understand that we had 1 timeout left, and I didn't want to take it full court. I wanted to get the ball up to half court, even if that took a second or 2. So I'm kind of yelling like, hey, get it on the run and try to get it to Dylan at half court. We'll call timeout. Because if you're around the half court line, they tend to give it to you there. I figured 3.5, 4 seconds, kind of what we did against Lake State last year to beat them. That was the plan. When he missed the first one, I just said, hey, and we've practiced this a little bit. If Dylan gets the rebound, Dylan go, and we're basically going to let Dylan try to more or less get to the rim as fast as he can, put a lot of pressure on him, get fouled, score. Well, Dylan gets the rebound and pitches it up to Gerald. So now, kind of where we were supposed to be, everyone's so it's unselfish, but I also am like, well, I have no idea what's coming now. The other way, I kind of knew what we were going to do. And so I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's probably too late to call timeout. We'd only have 2 seconds to go. And he had a pretty good head of steam. So I'm hoping Gerald got all the way to the rim. But Julian also didn't exactly know what's going on. So he kind of tried to get out of the way. But in the process of getting out of the way, he ran right at Gerald. So the good news with this is because he ran right at him, his guy stopped Gerald. And he did pass it. He passed it back, and the ball winds up in our best shooter's hands with no one around him. And when he caught it and was going up with it, I'm right on the line. I'm like, I think he's going to make this. Like, it just felt like the ball miraculously landed. It's wide open. I'm like, I think he's going to make this one. And as soon as he released it, I'm like, I think that's in. And went in, and, next thing you know, we win the game.
What's the process as a coach to take the timeout or let them play? Because each situation is different, as you alluded to. Against Ferris, you took the timeout. Against Lake State, you took the timeout. Grand Valley, I think you let them play when Wiseboro hit from the elbow.
Yeah.
But what's the mentality for you?
I think it's seconds. I think it's like how long, to me, either way, it's going to come down to a player making a tough play. Like you're not going to coach up something like a layup or anything like that. But so either way, someone's going to have to make a shot. So it's to me, what's the most advantageous for the time? So in like the Lake State example, I think we had 4 seconds or 3.5 seconds. If you inbound and go full court in 3.5 seconds, everybody could run at the ball and stop it. So then you're better off to have a side where you can pass it, knowing that you have to pass it and maybe you get one dribble. So I think it really is more time dependent than it is anything to do with a philosophy of yes timeout or no timeout. To me, at least, I think it's really what's going to give you the best possible chance. So the idea is if it's a 1-point game with 6, you have time to storm right to the rim. The other team's going to be disorganized, and you put pressure on them. And then obviously if they stop it, you kick it like we did. But if it's like 4 seconds, we don't have that option. So then you would be talking like a Hail Mary 3 or something like that. I think that's a worse shot than we could get on a sideline out. So it's to me like a kind of give and take of time and how much you're down, and then what you think kind of shot you're going to be able to get.
Should college basketball have advancement on the timeout?
I actually, I love all the new stuff, and I should say yes. I actually don't like it. I think it's kind of silly. I even think I know it makes NBA games more exciting, but it is kind of silly. Like 1.1 seconds to go, you won the game. You don't need to reward that team by letting them go to the other side and getting another. It feels like you're just giving the team that's losing like too much of an advantage by doing it. But again, if they did it, I'm sure it would help us, not hurt us, because I think we do pretty good at, manipulating end of game situations to use the advance and all that kind of stuff.
Sam Privet had a huge game, 22 points. Coming up big in that. First, probably the best mustache on the team.
Yes.
Second, I talk about Priv and how he came into his own in that game in the Dells.
Yeah, so one of the scouting things we do now is if someone has a better mustache than him, we make sure he knows that he won't have the best mustache in the game, because he does have an elite one, but there's a few guys that mustache game is better. One of the Duluth guys has a great mustache this weekend. So, but back to the relevant stuff is the shooting is something he does, and he does well, and he does consistently well. And he had a really good redshirt freshman year shooting the ball. And then last year, for whatever reason, he just didn't shoot it well. Never got in a groove, never got in a rhythm. And we've always felt like he was going to have games like that. I think our mental plan was always that he'd have, it's not every night, but 3, 4, 5 multiple 3 games, 3, 4, 5 threes, because most centers don't go out and guard him. What he showed in this game, and this will be, I don't know what the next coaches will do. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. You have to now decide. Are you going to live with him shooting threes, knowing that he could hit 4, and if he hits 4, the game's over and we win? Or are you going to guard him on the 3-point line, which creates all this space? And I think now that he's done it once, we're going to keep giving him hopefully 10 to 15 times a game where he gets a catch and he can let it rip and figure out what the other teams are doing. If they want to guard him, great. If they don't want to guard him, we're happy letting him, he'll shoot a couple. And if he gets hot, hopefully that can change the game.
How does that affect Julian, Gittins, Dylan, when Privet is doing what Privet's doing?
Yeah, the rim becomes wide open. I think a stretch 5 is the most valuable player in modern basketball, is if you have a 5-man that can step out there and consistently knock down threes, which we think Sam and Jackson can. I mean, Jackson hit a couple against Michigan State. If we can get those two consistently knocking down 3-point shots, the dynamics of the game changes, and there's an unbelievable amount of space inside, and it should open everything up for everyone else. And this year's team has its share of strengths and weaknesses like any other group. Our shooting is different than our shooting's ever been. We don't have as many elite shooters, but we also are playing all guys that can shoot. So the 3-point shooting, the hard part for me, but also kind of the good part, we have no idea. We have no one going into a game that we're like, Julian probably. We're going to get him 4 threes every game. After that, anybody else on our team could shoot 0 threes, or they could shoot 6 or 7, but we don't know where those threes are coming from. But we're hoping that night in and night out, if you choose not to guard certain guys, we'll have enough guys step up, and the hot guy will be the guy that game that shoots it. And so far, so good on that. Is there going to be a night where no one makes them? Probably, and we lose. Is there going to be a night where 3-4 guys make them? Probably, and we win.
Does Sam have to cover the person with the best mustache? If that matchup is allowed, they'll give him motivation.
Yeah, so these are the hard hitting ones. In this matchup coming up against Duluth, he will be guarding the guy with the best mustache. I think it's going to be one of the great mustache battles, of recent times. I'm sure back in the day there were a lot of great mustache battles. This is the modern mustache Super Bowl, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, what is the scout on the two teams this weekend and going on to play Duluth in a true road environment for the first time?
Yeah, I'd like to keep talking about mustaches because it's more fun than talking about these two. Massey has them 4-5 in the country right now. I've seen three teams that either made the national title or won the national title in my time at D2. This Duluth team, it has a real chance to win a national title. The depth of it is kind of what those teams have all had, and not just the depth 1 through 10, I think that everyone thinks about. It's actually more important to have like 6 guys that are all first team all league guys. And that's what this version of Duluth has. 6 players that if they played on any team pretty much in the country, they would be first team all conference. And they're meshing 6 of those guys on the same group. And so kind of how I said we could have anyone step up and make threes, they have a bunch of guys that if we had them, they would go and be 18 a game or 20 a game or 16 a game, and they're all on the same team. So that's going to be a challenge. And then Moorhead is undefeated. They have the same team back from last year. That was a top 15 team for the most part. They added a really good transfer. One thing too with these two is they're both coached at an elite level. So not only do they have really good players, but their coaches are going to outcoach me by a significant margin. So now we got to overcome that on top of the players. And I just think it's going to be, really, really difficult. Saying that, we have had last year we lost them both, but both games we had a shot at the buzzer to win, and we missed both those shots. The year before we beat Duluth at Duluth. We've had some success against teams like this, but I think where we're at now, I'm happy we're 3-0 entering this, but it's a great measuring stick. If we play win, lose, or draw, which you can't draw, thank gosh, we'll know at the end of this where we're at. And with this new team and this new group, I think it's a perfect time to find out, are we a national level contender or are we not? Because these two are, for sure. So we'll know more about us after this weekend.
You talk about national contender. Indy had a couple of tough games this weekend where they lost at the buzzer. One was the second on Valley with McIntosh. Obviously, you know what it's like being on the winning end of a game-winning shot. You've had a lot of them the last couple of years. How does that propel you compared to maybe losing on a last-second shot and trying to get over that hump and trying to get over that loss?
Yeah, we lost the 2 last year to these guys, and at the conclusion of our 2 losses to these 2 teams last year, we went on a 13-game winning streak, which is the biggest winning streak in the history of Northern. So does it do that? I don't know. It depends. It's kind of what is the group's makeup. The other part that's kind of sad to talk about, but real, how good are you? Those 2 games we lost last year on buzzer beaters, yeah, it sucked. The motivation of that didn't all of a sudden make us good. We were good. The fact we got to buzzer beaters against those 2 teams proved we were good enough to go win 13 in a row once our schedule softened up a little bit. So I think it can go either way. I think the inherent problem when you win a game on a buzzer beater, which we're trying to deal with this week, is if that ball misses, our team would have gone to the locker room. We would have been angry about how bad a defense we played. We would have been angry about, some of the careless turnovers. We would have been really frustrated with our slow start. We would have been really mad at how bad we practiced the whole week leading into that game. We would have been frustrated with our game plan as coaches. And the key is that all of those things that you would have felt in the loss, you still try to feel in the win. And then you still need to give your guys and your individuals credit for stepping up and finding a way to win and finding a way to make a big shot. But you can't lose the point, which is it took that to win because of all of the bad we did.
Real quick, the game 3 with the platooning, getting 10, 11 guys. Just how did that go, and how do you expect? Are you gonna figure more things out this weekend?
Yeah, I mean I think again, figure it out this weekend will be the key. We had 3 fouls in the first half, so we took a guy out and changed our platoon a little, and then we kind of abandoned it the last 10 minutes, which has always been the plan.
Yeah.
Get through the first 30 in the platoon, and then the last 10 play the best players who are playing the best and give you the best chance to win. I don't. I think I just don't know yet. I'm really curious to see what it looks like this weekend. Obviously, these two teams, as good as they are, they both coach the way that I coach. They play 5, 6, 7, 8. They have a little bit more depth, but they know who their guys are. They know when it's time who's going to be on the floor. So it's going to be a lot of our second unit playing against their first unit. We're not going to get that second matchup quite as much. And I think that'll be, if our second unit can hold up against the Duluth and Moorhead guys, we'll be fine with that for the rest of the year. So it should be really interesting in that way.
Talk about the weekend JC had. I mean, that was my big takeaway. She just balled out.
She did. It was an offensive explosion, which was awesome. She played really, really well. I think she was a little frustrated after her first weekend. Not just that she didn't get a lot of shots off, but she was kind of, I think, thinking a lot. And we just kind of told her, just go out there and have fun, make some shots. And then next thing you know, she's making a lot of shots, which makes our job a little bit easier.
Talk about Addison Pitsletsky and her role. She had a huge game, the second game on the weekend. How is she coming into her own and fitting into this program?
Yeah, she's figuring things out a little bit, as a freshman hopefully do, right? That's why you recruit them. She's got so much more room for growth, which is kind of crazy, but she came in that second game and just has been playing very consistent for us. It does what she does. They kind of know what her teammates kind of know what she's going to do now. So, and actually with her and Sid, who've been playing together for a long time, I put them on the court together and they just kind of know where each other are at. So I think that really helps her too. But she's very consistent every day in practice. She's consistent each game. We know what we're going to get out of her, and she's been doing really well this year.
I was going to talk about that with Sydney and Addison playing so much together and feeding off each other. And what's been 4 or 5 years they've played together. How does that benefit you, both being freshmen, but coming out there and playing really solid basketball?
Yeah, I mean, they work together really well. And Maddie kind of compliments them too. And they're in the gym shooting all the time too. I mean, they're those three kind of just take it upon themselves to be really good. They want to be really good. That's one of the reasons why we recruit them too, is they just have that passion for basketball, but they have that passion and that drive to be successful, both on the court, in the classroom, just as people. So I think they fit our system really well. And all three of them just kind of complement each other. So it's kind of fun when you can get them all on the court at the same time and just see what they're going to do.
What was the turning point against Bemidji? Because that was a 4-point game either way in that first half. And the last, I'd say, 6 minutes of the second quarter, you guys really turned it on and had an 11-point halftime lead. But what was the turning point in your eyes?
I am not exactly sure. I think we're one of those teams too that we play a lot of people and they just keep grinding it out. That's kind of defensively, we grinded it out our first 2 wins. And then our offensive explosion that happened those last couple games has been really nice to see. And I keep telling our team we need to kind of marry the two now. Instead of having one really good defensive and one really awesome offensive, we got to kind of have both. And they kind of took that to heart a little bit. I challenged them a little bit on the defensive end, and that kind of carried through kind of that second quarter, then definitely in that fourth quarter when we held them to 1 basket. That was huge for us, and that was just kind of like, okay, they're listening, they're getting what we're doing, and we just made a really big push, which was great to see.
What was the takeaway from Friday, where you had a big lead, let it dwindle down, and then you take over again? What do you think came out of that?
Well, and that's kind of what we were talking about with the defensive ball. Like, yeah, we had a great offensive game. I was kind of like, yeah, we're having fun. And then, we forgot to play the other side a little bit. And it's like, okay, you gotta have both. And nothing against them, but when you play really, really good teams, if you have those lows, like, then all of a sudden you're going to be down 10, you're going to be down 15. And that's kind of, had a couple of those games last year, and it's learning, okay, returners, like, we've had this happen. You got to make sure it doesn't happen consistently. And then obviously when you got people making shots, JC and Sarah, and Addie having a great weekend. I mean, there's a little bit of everybody, and people were grabbing boards and doing kind of their role, which I think helped our whole team. We talk about it like it takes everybody. It's not just about one or two people. Obviously, JC with her getting player of the week, which is awesome. Our team was super excited for her yesterday. But we need everybody. You need all 5 players on the floor, plus the people coming in off the bench got to do their part in order for us to be successful.
We know teams are going to make a run, but what's the toughest thing about having a 21-point lead and maintaining that 21-point lead?
And that's just it, like keeping it going. But really getting it done on the defensive end. It was kind of like we were very comfortable with where we're at offensively and with our lead. Oh, yeah, we got a lead going. Like, no, it doesn't happen. I'm one of those coaches like, okay, now put the foot down and keep going, which we talked about a little bit. And I think they understood it a little bit more. Obviously, when we turned around with Bemidji, it was kind of a grind in the first half, and all of a sudden, okay, now we figured out our defense a little bit more and what we could do and how we could defend. And that's kind of, hopefully we just keep doing that. We're still figuring out some things too, and I think that's the biggest thing, and letting them know, like, we are a pretty good team, but we're not where we need to be yet, which I don't want to be where we need to be. I want us to get there, which is a growing process, but it's going to be including everybody along the way.
Kind of crazy how fast the non-conference goes. You got these two, then the 7-10 day break, and it's GLIAC play. So what do you hope to see this weekend and feel good heading into that little break?
They're 2 really good teams. We traveled there last year. We kind of had the same thing, where we were off to a good start of the season, and then we went there and they kind of let us know what was up. And so this year, we talked about it a little bit. We got to figure some things out still. Going into Duluth, they're a very big team. They got some crazy scorers that are really, really good that we got to slow down. And St. Cloud too, like they're both really good teams. But we just got to do our thing and kind of prepare, be ready to go, I think, a little bit more than what we were this weekend. Obviously, being a home weekend this weekend, we were all excited and jazzed up and got to play in our new arena. But now we're going to go on the road, and they're tough environments to play in. They're tough teams in a tough conference, and they're coming for us just like we're coming for them. So it's gonna be a fun time, but I think we got some couple days here that we need to tune up some things before we head to Minnesota.
Natalie's talk about stepping up, being the head coach on semifinal and finals game, and what that means to you, and coming with 2 victories.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an ideal situation, but it is what it was, and we had to do it. The girls were very, very good about it, and they kind of knew what was at stake as well, and really it was them stepping up. It had nothing to do with me. They knew what had to be done. They knew what the game plan was, and they went out and executed it exactly how we needed them to.
You played for John. Obviously, you coach under John, and the ladies know who you are. So that transition seemed like it was pretty easy, just because I feel like you're an extension of him, and you know what you're going to be doing, and you know what lineups you're going to be in. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, and I think it really helped. I went away for a little bit, and then came back, and I loved playing for John. I love working for John, and everything from when I left is just better than it was before. So we have the right mindset. The team has the right mindset. So it was a very easy transition. And like you said, like I know a lot of the girls. I played with a few of them, and it's just been really fun to watch that group. And now the ones that I didn't know come in and take over from exactly where we left off from when I left. And the upperclassmen do a really good job of instilling that culture and work ethic as well, which is really, really fun to see.
As a coach, how happy are you for a player like Les Browns, who wasn't able to play last year, come out and get that GLIAC championship?
It's incredible. I mean, I got the honor really to play with Justina. And even as a freshman, you could tell she was a very special player. Just same thing with like Molly as well. And I can imagine having to sit out with the year that they had last year was really difficult for her. So the comeback that she had it's like one you see in documentaries. It's been amazing to watch. And someone like her really deserves it. So I'm happy it's played out the way that it has for her.
When we talked Friday and Sunday, you guys scored early goals in both of those, but you said it took a while to get into a rhythm and really take over the game. What do you think was the difference where you guys were able to do that in both of those games?
The leadership, really, and I think, I know I mentioned it previously as well, halftime was a big thing, but then looking back on that too, it was a good thing we got those early goals, but both Davenport and Saginaw came out very strong in both halves, so being able to settle in was really important, but now coming into next weekend, we can't really start off the way that we did, so that's something that was emphasized at the end of both games, just making sure that we come out with the fire from the start rather than 20 minutes into the game. But it really just, it came from them. I mean, they knew at halftime and even during the game, you could hear some of them saying like, this isn't good enough, pick it up, stuff like that. So really it all kind of switched from them during the game, which is a really good thing to see as well.
What's the vibe going into this tournament? Third year in a row, right? You guys have been getting there every year, but you're still looking for that win. Is there scar tissue there? Do you feel that? Like how badly these girls want to get a tournament win?
Yeah, it's actually funny. We had the selection show yesterday, and we had a couple of them just kind of saying like, being here again for the third year, and getting stuck in the first round the first 2 years. The experience we have, I think, is going to take them pretty far, and that alone, you can just tell. Like they're excited, they're ready, but it's almost like a revenge isn't the correct word, but it's almost like they have something to prove. You can kind of feel that going around the whole team right now.
How happy were you guys when you watched the selection show not seeing Maryville on?
Oh gosh. Again, I think we would be ready to weather any storm, but I think it's a nice switch up, to get the 4 seed and get to go and play someone new too. Really, that's kind of what it is. Go somewhere different, play somebody different. It's actually that this is like the best time of year. This is really fun for everybody. So, but yeah, I guess pretty happy.
Did you guys have an idea that you'd be playing Drury before yesterday, or was that the first time you had any idea who you were going to play, and how do you spend these next couple days getting ready for them?
Yeah, so we really didn't have any idea, and this was something John and I have talked about a little bit too. It's been very close, the whole region, Midwest especially, closest as we've ever seen it. Like, we had absolutely no idea going into even Sunday what would happen if we won or lost, if we'd even make the tournament, that type of thing. So it was a very, very close race. So seeing Drury was kind of a surprise to everyone. And then I guess the preparation leading up to it is really just making sure like we know our game plan, we play our game, but then also looking at key players that they have as well, and then their formation, how they like to attack. But the biggest thing is just making sure we go in with the mindset that we're going to play our game. And then obviously you look out for, they have a few really good all-conference players as well, so just being aware of who they are.